Hello, history buffs, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre, almost unbelievable stories from the life of one of history's greatest military commanders. We're talking about Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, you've heard of his brilliant victories at Austerlitz, his exile to Elba, and his final defeat at Waterloo. But have you ever heard about the time he was utterly defeated by a horde of fluffy bunnies? No, I'm not making this up. This is the strange but true story of the day Napoleon was attacked by rabbits. So, let's set the scene. The year is 1807. Napoleon is at the absolute peak of his power. He has just signed the treaties of Tilsit, effectively ending the war with Russia and Prussia. The Fourth Coalition was crushed, and Napoleon controlled a vast swath of Europe. He was the master of the continent, a man who had redrawn maps and humbled empires. To celebrate this momentous occasion, he decided to organize a grand rabbit hunt. It was meant to be a leisurely affair, a day of sport and relaxation with his top officers. The man tasked with organizing this hunt was Napoleon's chief of staff, Marshal Alexander Berthier. Berthier, ever eager to please his emperor, wanted to ensure the event was a spectacular success. A normal hunt wouldn't do. No, this had to be a hunt worthy of Napoleon. So, instead of relying on finding wild rabbits, Berthier decided to procure them. He went out and bought them from local farmers. And he didn't just buy a few dozen. Sources differ on the exact number, but estimates range from several hundred to as many as 3,000 rabbits. He had them all gathered and caged, ready to be released for the grand hunt. The day arrived. Napoleon and his entourage of decorated military men rode out to the field. They were armed with their hunting rifles, ready for a day of casual sport. The cages were opened, and the signal was given. The great hunt was about to begin. But this is where things took a very, very strange turn. These weren't wild rabbits. Wild rabbits, when released, would naturally scatter in every direction, fleeing in terror from the hunters. That's what everyone expected. But Berthier had made a critical mistake. The rabbits he had purchased were not wild. They were domesticated rabbits, sourced from local farms. And what do domesticated rabbits associate humans with? Not danger, not predators, but food. They see people and think, ah, the bringer of lettuce and carrots is here. So, instead of fleeing, this massive army of fluffy bunnies, hundreds, maybe thousands strong, did the exact opposite. They saw Napoleon and his distinguished officers as a giant, walking salad bar. They turned, en masse, and charged. Imagine the scene. Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who made all of Europe tremble, suddenly found himself at the center of a furry, twitchy-nosed tidal wave. The rabbits swarmed towards the hunting party. At first, it was probably amusing. A few chuckles, a bit of laughter at the strange sight. The men might have tried to nudge them away with their boots or the butts of their rifles. But the rabbits were relentless. They weren't just running towards them, they were running at them. They started climbing up Napoleon's legs. The scourge of Europe was being swarmed by bunnies. The sheer number was overwhelming. This fluffy battalion divided into two wings, flanking the imperial party and surging towards the emperor himself. It went from being a funny spectacle to a chaotic, almost surreal assault. The rabbits were everywhere, a sea of fur and ears, nibbling at boots and scrambling up trousers. The great military strategist was completely flummoxed. His men were laughing, but also trying to fend off the relentless attack. They were swatting at them, shouting, but nothing worked. This wasn't a battle of strategy or firepower. It was a battle of overwhelming, hungry cuteness. The rabbits had launched a pincer movement that would have made Napoleon proud if he weren't the target. Finally, the emperor had enough. He beat a hasty retreat. Yes, you heard that right. Napoleon Bonaparte, the conqueror of nations, fled. He scrambled back to his imperial carriage, but the rabbits pursued him. Some reports say a few particularly bold bunnies even managed to leap into the carriage with him. The coachman had to whip the horses into a gallop to escape the furry onslaught, with Napoleon reportedly flinging a few of the more persistent attackers out of the window as they sped away. The great hunt was over, and the rabbits were the undisputed victors. Now, this story is told by Baron Paul Thibault in his memoirs. While some historians debate the finer details, the core of the story is generally accepted as a real, albeit embarrassing, event in Napoleon's life. It's a hilarious and humbling reminder that no matter how powerful or brilliant you are, life can always throw something completely unexpected at you. In this case, it was a fuzzy, carrot-crazed army. What can we take from this? Well, for one, it's a fantastic lesson in logistics. Know your enemy, or in this case, know your rabbits. Berthier's failure to distinguish between wild and domesticated bunnies led to one of history's most comical military defeats. It also shows a more human, and frankly, a much funnier side to a figure we often see as a stoic, unyielding commander. Even the greatest among us can be brought down to earth by the simplest of things. It's a story that feels like it's straight out of a cartoon, but it's a genuine historical footnote. A moment where the grand, sweeping narrative of European history paused for a brief, absurd, and utterly hilarious episode. The man who commanded the Grande Army couldn't command a field of hungry rabbits. So the next time you think of Napoleon, don't just picture the battles and the grand empire. Picture him, for a moment, frantically retreating to his carriage, pursued by a relentless wave of fluffy bunnies. It's a story that proves history isn't just about dates and treaties. It's filled with weird, wonderful, and laugh-out-loud moments. Thank you so much for joining me on this dive into one of history's weirdest tales. What do you think? Is this the funniest story you've heard about a famous historical figure? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this little trip back in time, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Until next time, stay curious.